Okay, hello everyone. This was the problem from your quiz. I believe it was number 9, maybe. And you had to prove that if x is less than 2, then x squared minus 8x is greater than negative 15. Remember the general structure. So if you did not know how to solve this proof, or if you have a proof that you do not know how to solve, you should at least know what the first and the last line should be, especially if it's a conditional proof. We haven't talked about others, which we will when we return back to school, but you need to keep that in mind. So the first line would be suppose x is less than 2. Now, as of now, that's all you're given. You can only suppose your if. You can never use your then part in your proof directly. Okay? You can never just use that part directly, because then what would you be trying to prove? Okay? So keep in mind, you can never use that then part in your proof. Also keep in mind your show, which should be in parentheses, because that tells me this isn't part of your proof. This is how you're organizing your thoughts. So that should not be in your proof. Not in your proof, but you should make sure you put it around parentheses, and that's just for you to look at. So when I was grading these proofs, I didn't even look at your show part. I just went step by step to see if it made sense and flowed clearly without looking at your show part. So keep that in mind too. So we're trying to show that x squared minus 8x is greater than negative 15. Again, it's important to go back over your notes. Remember, I gave you guys, I believe, 8 or 9 guidelines, and I said if you remember these guidelines, understand these guidelines, then you'll be successful in doing proofs. If you recall, one of the guidelines says that sometimes you have to work backwards. Since all we have to suppose is x is less than 2, and I think I said let x be a real number. I'm pretty sure I said that. Okay, so I had let x belong to the reals. I'm sorry. But all you have is that x is less than 2. So that means we should sort of work backward to see what we're trying to go to. All right? Okay. So what I'm going to do is do some side work. Okay. So again, this isn't part of my proof. This is actually on the side of my proof or something. But on the side, so this is where I'm trying to go. That's where I'm trying to go. Let's work backwards and see what's going on. So if we add 15 to both sides, we get x squared minus 8x plus 15 is greater than 0. Okay. Let's see. What else can we do with this? Well, we can factor this because it's a quadratic. And it factors x minus 5, x minus 3. Okay. So then that tells us that if we can get these, if we can somehow get x minus 3, x minus 5, and write it as those two linear factors together is greater than 0. If we can somehow do that, then we can solve this proof. This should not be in your proof at all. This is where you're trying to go. Okay, so somewhere from x is less than 2, we need to get to this point. And let me use a different color to show. We need to get to this point. So if we can get to this point, then we can just work our way up from there to solve this proof. Okay? Now, so this is where you have to sort of think about strategy. Going back, think about strategy. Well, we know we want to bring in 3 and 5 somewhere. We have this inequality. Okay? And so if we know, suppose x is less than 2. Well, if x is less than 2, then we can say, then x is less than 3. Right? So make sure that makes sense in your mind. If a number is less than 2, then that number has to be less than 3. And actually, that number will also be less than 5. Okay? So what does that mean? Well, if x is less than 3, then x minus 3 is less than 0. And x minus 5 is less than 0. Okay? So if you need to stop the video and, make sure that the steps make sense, do that. I just want you to make sure you can never use your show part in your proof. Okay? So be careful of that. All right. So now, what we're trying to get, if we go back over here, we're trying to get those two those two linear factors to be greater than 0 when you multiply them. Well, we know that x minus 3 is less than 0, so it's negative, right? And x minus 5 is less than 0 is negative. So we can say since x minus 3 is less than 0 and x minus 5 is less than 0, x minus 3 times x minus 5 is going to be greater than 0. And then I'll let you guys finish this. And so your last line, so dot, 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 your last line, of course, is going to be therefore x squared minus 8x is greater than negative 15. Okay. So if you can finish this proof and bring it to class along with the take-home quiz, I'll give you guys an extra 3 points on your exam if you can bring the rest of this proof in. Okay?